Hi there, welcome to Breakthrough Awakening Mind-Blowing Mondays with Kundan Chabra. I'm the host, and we have our guest here, Tabitha Jane, author and creator of The Nature Process. Welcome, Tabitha.
Hello, Kundan. Thank you very much for asking me to join you today.
So I would like to start off with a simple pose to get us present and centered. So let's put our hands in front of our hearts like this, letting the energy of our hearts quiet our minds. And now let us put our hands together in prayer position. Let us close our eyes and chant Om 3 times. Om. Om. Thank you. So I'm with Tabitha Jane, author and creator of The Nature Process, which helps people discover the power and potential of the natural process. And that is the official introduction. And then I'm now going to start off with an informal introduction of how I discovered Tabitha and how the nature process has already benefited me. It all started when I posted something on Facebook. It's a quotation by Teilhard Pierre de Chardin on how someday we will eventually harness the energies of love after we harness the energies of the winds and the waves and all of that. And Anthony Oakley, which is our mutual friend, he sent me a message and he said that he had so many thoughts around that statement that he didn't want to just type on Facebook. He wanted to have a Skype chat with me. So we started chatting about that quote and also around what I was talking about regarding that quote. And eventually we came around to talking about the nature process and about you and how it's so simple to heal your limiting beliefs and your emotions just by connecting with a piece of nature, such as a tree or the grass or the ocean, and then releasing it to nature. And that really inspired me to get the book. And even before I started getting the book, I was already applying what Anthony was telling me, and it was already having beneficial effects. And the most profound moment happened on Friday when I was alone at the beach and I started creating these sand structures while going through the 5 steps of the nature process. And I ended up talking with this woman that I just met after I went through the nature process. And we were playing frisbee with each other. And at first she wasn't throwing very well and I wasn't catching very well. And then I started applying the nature process, going through the 5 steps and just shifting my presence, basically. I wasn't even doing anything specific. I was shifting my being and then I felt connected to the frisbee, to the sand, to the ocean, to the sky, to her, to myself, my own body. And then suddenly, she ended up being able to throw very well and I could catch very well and we had a better connection as a result. And it even made me realize that the frisbee wasn't really the point. The frisbee was just a point of connection.
Mm.
And so it's beyond just a healing modality to me. It's a way of living life. So let us have Tabitha have the floor and describe the 5 steps of the nature process and how you discovered this.
Yeah, Thank you. And it's great that you've actually said that it's more than just a healing modality, it is a way of being, because this is a fundamental aspect of our human selves. We were born to be biologically hardwired to have a connection to nature. So this is actually something that we naturally have anyway. But what's happened is, as we've created civilization is based on this premise that in order to be civilized, there is an underlying belief that we must be disconnected from nature to conquer, to dominate it. So over the time, as we've developed civilization, we've really weakened our connection, and we've really not understood what we've been doing. So working with this in mind, I've always been passionate about nature. I mean, I think it's a simple fact. We all know we go outside, we feel better. And this has always been a place of solace and sanctuary for me throughout a difficult childhood. And I suppose the turning point came for me after my brother died. And I was overcome with grief, didn't know how to handle it. But the more that I spent out in nature, the better I felt. And then I had this one experience a few years after my brother died, where I went to this retreat, and I'd kind of had this awareness that nature was communicating with me my whole life. But it's one of those things that it's really easy to discount and go, just your imagination. So anyway, I had this experience with this tree where I could clearly hear the tree say, "Climb me," not in words, but in this sensory experience. So I ended up climbing this tree, and the tree told me to climb up in a certain way. Then there was some plastic attached to the edge of the tree, and it said, "Climb out right to the edge of the tree, get it, and then you can slide down the branches to the earth." And I thought, this looks pretty dangerous, could fall, could hurt myself. I'm completely mad, but I'm on a quest to learn to trust. So this is a choice that I have. I can either trust this experience and see what happens, or I can not trust. So I chose to trust. And it was the most beautiful thing, because exactly as the tree had spoken, except in non-verbal sense, I climbed out to this tree, pulled off it, and slid down the branch right to the earth. And this was a fundamental moment for me, because I realized in that moment, as I was sitting there perching in the middle of the tree, that my brother and nature were one, I and nature were one, and literally my pain, my grief, my loss disappeared, and to a place of total utter peace. So it kind of left me on a quest of, how do I articulate this experience to other people so that other people can experience this? Because we all know that we can go out into nature, but not everybody can be connected while they're in nature. So what is the fundamental difference that's going on here? So this led me on a journey to discover ecopsychology, which is the study of the human-nature relationship. So I spent 3 years studying for a master to give me a framework of how to understand some of the fundamental concepts, like the 54 senses, which we'll talk about in a little bit afterwards. And from this, I started applying it, because I'm also a qualified coach, in with my clients, and looking at, well, okay, how does this work? And literally synthesize that into the nature process. And the nature process is literally, this is how it works when we're out in nature. 5 steps that are fundamentally very simple. The first one is to go out and become fully present in nature. And the key to this is actually moving beyond the 5 senses into an expansive 54 senses, which allow you to receive information from the surrounding environment that has a dramatic effect, exactly like you say, that totally changes and shifts your perception of you and the natural world. From there, you drop into your body. So it's very much a sense of embodiment, because any limiting beliefs, any pain, any grief that we hold, it stays within our body. So we can actually get a sense of it when we're connected to our body. From there, you find an aspect of nature which resonates, which is attractive to you, that holds an attractive quality that will help you shift whatever it is that you need to release. You then move into a state of natural communication, which is treating the earth and nature as a living being as well, and asking from a place of respect, am I able to connect and interact with you? And then simply allowing yourself to let go. There's a process that works out in nature, where nature is literally, I mean, it sounds a bit weird to say it, but it's almost like it sucks out everything that is not you, i.e. nature, to return you to a state of balance, because this is the fundamental principle of all of nature. It stays in a state of homeostasis, balance, harmony, wholeness. So anything that has been created through a disconnect, and any of the stories that we hold on to, the pain, the limiting beliefs, these are created by this disconnect. So when we let go of them, we return to our natural state, which is a state of being balanced and whole and one with nature.
Yeah, I love that. Like, one of the things that I really liked about the book was when you said that nature has billions of components and it's been balancing and restoring itself for billions of years. So it could easily like balance us. We're just these,
Yeah,
small tiny beings.
exactly. And I mean, it's kind of like when I explain it to people, it's like nature has been around, if the Big Bang hypothesis is to be believed, for 13.7 billion years. In those 13.7 billion years, it's got 100% success rate in successful growth, transformation, balance, harmony. There is no human with that success record in existence, because we don't live that long, we don't exist that long. So for me, it kind of makes perfect sense to actually go, who is the master in growth, transformation, balance, wholeness? Well, nature. So when we learn from nature, we're able to tap into that universal wisdom. And I mean, it is that aspect. We're not just a part of nature, we are nature. All the atoms and particles in our bodies are constantly regenerating, dancing, shifting and changing. So I have atoms and particles just like you that belong to stars from distant galaxies that were in the soil. So we are the exact same material. And when we allow ourselves to actually fully connect to nature, we're activating that wisdom within ourselves so that we are able to tap into it.
Yeah, and that's another thing I liked about the book, where you said that 80% of our cells are not even our own. They're microbes coexisting with each other. So it's like there's a mini Earth inside us. And that just
Yes.
blew my mind. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And I love that, because it really is seeing that our bodies are hosts. And I mean, it's when you think about it, trillions and trillions, there's more different living organisms within our body than we're aware of on the earth at this precise moment, because we don't yet understand all the species and everything that exists. We haven't yet fully explored the earth to understand the depths. And it is just mind-blowing to sit and think, well, somewhere on my body right now, there's a little bacterial bug that thinks that I'm a pretty big existence, exactly the same as we perceive ourselves in earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's another thing I want you to talk about, because this is really important. When you talk about the different, I think it's frequencies in the
Mm-hmm.
brain, there is beta, alpha, beta, and delta, right?
Yes.
And then you get slower and slower as you go from alpha to beta to delta.
Yeah.
And children under the age of 7 are mostly in theta.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also when they get imprinted with all these limiting beliefs.
Yes.
And most healing modalities are working at the alpha and beta levels, when in reality the beliefs happen at the theta level. So that's why it's so difficult.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and what is really fascinating, so let's just kind of clarify there from the children, which is awesome. Children, they are naturally in this theta brainwave state, exactly like you've said. What's fascinating is that reprogramming beliefs, thoughts, stories can happen instantaneously here. And what happens as we get older is we move out of the theta brainwave state, we move into the alpha, and then finally the beta. We're then working, so many of us, trying to shift beliefs, as you say, at the alpha level or the beta level, and it just doesn't work. And what's also fascinating is when we're in a beta brainwave state, this is when we've got that monkey mind chatter. That's when we've got the stress, the anxiety, the stories, because the brain is so hyper. It's like, we move into alpha, which is a state of relaxation, where meditation brings you to. The mind starts to become quiet. But what happens, I mean, literally, I mean, the theta brainwave state this is where magic happens. I mean, it's the same thing. Scientists who are studying flow, which is all about performance, It's the theta brainwave state that peak performance exists, peak experiences from Abraham Maslow. They're all the same things. When you get there, your mind becomes silent. You actually move out of being conscious, and the unconscious is allowed to come forth, to shift, to train, to shape change. So this is a place where you've got deep visualization, creativity, that sense of connection to the universe, and where you actually lose anything that's actually holding you back. So the more that we can go down to there, and what's also fascinating is about why nature has been traditionally the source of so many of these experiences is in the 1970s, an engineer called Schumann discovered that the Earth actually had an electromagnetic frequency. What's fascinating is that that vibrates at 7.83 megahertz. Now the theta brainwave state goes from 4 to 8 megahertz. Then you get from 8 to 14, which is the alpha stage, and then from 14 to 22, which is the beta. So when you actually go out into nature and you become fully present, you're then opening yourself up to a being that already has the frequency of the theta brainwave state. So you're actually allowing yourself to come back into sync with this, reach the theta brainwave state, and literally let go of all the limiting beliefs and actually step into your full potential.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that the book came at the perfect time in my journey. It's almost like the next step, because even before I started reading the book, I already take my clients out in nature when I do my healing sessions with them. And I combine the logical processes with slowing down their brains and their minds into the theta state.
Yeah.
I really aligned with that idea. That was
Yeah. And what I find with a lot of people who actually read the book, people go to me, oh my goodness, I've been doing this already. I just didn't know it was a process. And this is the whole point. The reason of making it a process is to bring forth what's unconscious, conscious, because when we're conscious of something, that gives us the power to amplify it, to understand what we're doing and really go deeper into it. And like you say, so many people come to me and go, my goodness, I've been doing this my whole life, or I didn't know, or you just have articulated something that I've never thought about, because we're not conditioned to have deep and meaningful conversations about nature. It's not a common topic within society. Yet when we actually delve into it, we find that there is so many shared experiences that we're all having that nobody's articulating. And what I love is that nature is a universal theme that crosses boundaries, cultures, any division that we actually have. You go for a walk and you engage somebody in a conversation with nature, they're able to connect, to relate and understand, because most people have had experiences in their childhood where they have had awesome adventures in nature. Something like 86% in a study they once did said that adults can actually remember an extraordinary experience in nature. So we're having these. And there's something about giving people permission to speak about them, because I love it where I live. I will go for walks and I meet people randomly. I have conversations about nature on so many different levels. And I meet people that I would never have thought that I could have had a connection with, like you say. And then I'm learning something about the natural environment that I'm in. They're teaching me something, but it is that depth of connection. And for me, this is the whole point of the nature process, to bring into conscious awareness that we actually are still connected to nature, and we just need to fully activate that, become conscious of it, and then actually allow whatever is to emerge from that. And that's what I'm saying. It really is a place of, when we're connected to nature, we can do anything that we want. It's plugging ourselves into what I believe is the most powerful source of energy to humanity.
That's awesome. That's awesome, because we're so disconnected from nature. We live in these boxes, and then we travel in these boxes that we call cars. And some of us are even so disconnected from nature that, like, I've actually met people who are allergic to grass, for example, and I'm like, that's really bad. Like, how could you be that disconnected from nature that you're allergic to grass?
Yeah.
Like that. So I'm so glad you wrote that book.
Yeah, And these are all things, I mean, it's because we're becoming more aware that our thoughts create our realities.
Mm-hmm.
This is an area that we've really not explored. What are the unconscious beliefs that we've been told about nature?
Mm-hmm.
That it's dirty, that it's uncivilized,
Mm-hmm.
that it'll make you ill, that you need to keep clean. So we have so many stories that we've never actually explored and unpacked. And exactly like you say, they can impact you. For example, when I was a child, I used to be allergic to cats. To some extent, I still am. There's something in their dander that triggers me. And I can remember going to the doctor and the doctor saying, you need to keep the cat out your bedroom. And I'm like, this cat is my friend. Like, I have a relationship with this cat. There's no danger in closing the door. So I let the cat in, and then I built up this tolerance. Whereas if I had actually said, oh my goodness, I have hay fever, I have eczema, all of this is preventing me from actually connecting to nature. I would have blocked that connection. And what is really fascinating is that when you go and you look at asthma and eczema and allergies, in children, the best way to actually help them overcome that is giving them lots of exposure to nature and building up their immune system. So intuitively, as a child, I was doing the opposite of what the doctors told me to do. Get rid of the animals, stop going out in nature. It's like, but no, I like this. It makes me feel good. I will find a way to work around it. And yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I'm so glad that I did. I'm watching the cat just watching me as we're talking there and kind of doing a funny blinking.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up that story. It reminds me of a practice in yoga that's known as leaning into your edge. So every time you do a yoga practice, you go all the way into your edge and maybe go even slightly beyond it, but not beyond your comfort level. But every time you lean into your edge expands until you can do more and more and more. So that's kind of what you did with the cat.
Yeah, it's what I've done the whole time I've been out in nature. And I mean, even the climbing of the tree, that was me leaning into my edge. Do I trust it? And I've gone out and I've had more experiences like that where I'm like, oh, here's a 6-foot rock. I'm going to go and climb the rock. No idea what I'm doing. I'm trusting in the moment and having the experience, because for me, that moment of figuring out how to climb that rock taught me more than anything else. And this is what I like, that when we're actually aware, we're getting experiences and teachings and learning from nature. I mean, that rock taught me about perseverance. It taught me that sometimes there's loose footings that, well, can actually unseat you, but you get back. And the whole feeling, because then I got to the top of the rock and then didn't want to jump off and had to work through this whole fear, which can apply to any area in your life. Then you jump off and realize, actually, it's not that difficult. Let's do it again. So you're gaining greater confidence by actually engaging in the natural world as well as being taught.
Yeah. So let us move into the most mind-blowing part of this book, which is the 54 senses.
Yes.
I'm so glad that's included in the book, because I've been on that journey of expanding my senses even before I started reading the book. For example, before I read that book, I read a book called Romancing the Ordinary. It talks about the 7 senses that women have. The 6th sense, which is known in popular culture. And that's a sense of knowing, and then the sense of reverence and rapture. And then in my own life, 2 of my senses have merged, my sense of sight and my sense of touch. So I can actually see emotions and color and shapes.
Yeah.
Just like there's actually an artist who can see music and color. He actually paints beautiful paintings out of what he sees. So just like you can see emotions and color. And the reverse is also true. I can feel colors and shapes and textures with my eyes. And I can actually turn it on and off.
Yes.
And so when I read the book, first of all, I also like the fact that you ask the reader to put down the book before continuing further and to actually go out in nature and experience more of these senses on their own, because you didn't want people to intellectualize it.
Yes.
You want people to actually experience it. And you actually divide it into 4 different categories: the radiation sense, the sense of movement, the mental sense, and what was the 4th one?
Mental sense.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I said just now. The mental sense, the
Okay,
physical sense,
so the mental, the radiation, the chemical, and the
or
feeling, I think.
right, the chemical, right. All
Yes.
right. So in this conversation as well, I don't really want people to intellectualize it. So instead of having you talk about or give examples, is there a way that you can somehow take us on a journey or an experience where we could, like the person watching this video could actually expand their senses right now?
Ooh, awesome. I'm so glad that you asked me this. This is one of my favorite things. And it's really important that when we're talking about the 54 senses, this is the foundation, the framework that I learned within my master's. And how it came about is that the pioneer of the approach that I use in applied eco-psychology literally discovered through collaboration with somebody else all these other different senses in psychological research and brought them together to categorize them in this framework. So even as we're sitting and we're talking just now, we can take a deep breath in. Now that's a sense there, a sense of air, because if you stop breathing, you get a sense of pressure. Your body immediately automatically wants to reconnect. So there is this sense and this awareness. Now, even as people are talking to us, when they look at the screen, I'm not sure who's coming up because I'm seeing you, Kundan, but what are you noticing within the screen? Because there's not just, your eyes are not just seeing. What senses are your eyes seeing? So then in terms of looking at it and really bringing it into focus, there's a sense of color there. And as you said, a sense of being able to attach emotion to color. So what emotion is coming up as you look at the colors, whether it's the white backdrop behind Kundan or the nature backdrop behind me. And then you're also having a sense of hearing. So you're hearing the words being spoken, and that's tapping in and connecting to a sense of language so that you can actually understand what's being communicated. But are you also actually aware of an electromagnetic frequency from the conversation that we're having? Are you actually feeling an energetic connection? And tap in and become aware of this. Then notice that you've got your feet on the ground. Become aware of the sense of pressure, the sense of touch as you're connecting there. And also, even within the room that you're in just now, is there warm, cold air surrounding you? Are you able to sense the temperature? Bringing the awareness into the body, are you able to sense any stress, any tension within the body? Or are you able to feel what this conversation is bringing up for you? These are all senses that we're tapping into. And even other senses. Like you said, there's a sense of connection and community. Are you, as you're listening to this in this precise moment, feeling connected, feeling a sense of belonging, that you're actually hearing a conversation that helps you clarify and articulate things that you've been thinking but have never actually expressed before? And then even from where you are just now, if I look out my window, I get a sense of place, a sense of connection to the land that I am in at this precise moment. Where are you, the listener, in this precise moment, in terms of the sense of the land, sense of place? So those are some of the senses that as we bring in, and it is about feeling them and talking through and allowing the expansion of them. So I hope that has kind of explained it a little bit. If you want, I can still do a deeper exercise, but if you think that people have got a sense, because I really want them to stay focused and engaged in the conversation, because it's important to realize that meditation is about going inwards and connecting inwards. The nature process is really about taking that meditation and connecting it outwards into the natural environment and noticing other things such as form, texture, distance, shape, and really allowing yourself to step back into the theta brainwave state of a child and discovering what you already know. Because children, and if anybody really wants to go and get a master teacher in natural presence, go and find a child under the age of 6 and go and play with them. They will teach you things that you have never paid attention to before, because they are seeing things from this natural presence and full engagement in the universe. And even if you think about it, if you take your hand and move it away, and really just focus on that, because this is what newborn babies do. Oh my God, I've got a hand and I can move it. How cool. But as you're focusing on it, it's like, notice the sense of movement, the pressure, the tension in your arm as you're doing it, the motion, the distance. And even a simple act like that is bringing you into the present moment, because you're stopping and noticing more about the experience than you normally would.
Yeah, that's amazing. As you started describing all these senses, I actually started getting more and more present. I think that's the side effect of expanding your senses.
Yeah. And this is it. You become fully engaged in life. And it's one thing listening to this in this conversation, and we're surrounded by technology. Technology has its own electromagnetic.
Oh, your voice started.
Sorry?
Your voice started lowering just now.
Oh.
Is it my computer or yours?
I don't know. Is it all right? I did hit the microphone with my hand, because I tend to talk with my hands.
You're better now. I can hear you better now. Okay, good.
Awesome. If the one thing that the people listening to this take away is to get outside and to do this exploration, there are 54 senses. Go and discover what they are. Go and explore and play within nature and see what you notice as you tune in. And even one of the senses, which is really interesting, which I love playing with, is the sense of relaxation. Can you sense that your mind, exactly as you said, I was able to aware of becoming more present. So your sense of relaxation was coming into play. Notice how you feel when you start going out into nature. Notice how you feel at the end of the experience, and literally play, discover as many senses as possible, and open yourself up, as you said, to a new way of being.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up. So there's a connection between relaxation and presence. So let's talk about that.
Well, again, the connection between relaxation and presence, it comes back to the fundamental aspect of the brain waves. As much as we think of ourselves as spiritual beings having a human experience, we also have to understand that within this human experience, we have chemicals within the body affecting us, and the way that our bodies are constructed. So we actually have to understand how to work with our bodies. So if it gets down to a fundamental level, even the sense of relaxation and presence, we have our fight or flight response that's built in. When we feel stressed, when we feel threatened, we react, and that's a lot of unconscious programming. So to be able to relax is to actually move past the fight or flight response and stay in control within our body, using that sense of relaxation. Because if you think about it and take a moment about when you're stressed, what do you notice? There's always a sense of pressure, a sense of tightness. Maybe you can't concentrate, your hands go clammy, you lose your appetite, you get angry, you get irritable. All of these things are actually triggered by chemicals that are going off within your body. So when you bring it back down to a chemical level, this sense of relaxation, you cannot think properly if you're in fight or flight response, because you're going to react to a threat. When you're able to actually use that sense of relaxation, which is why the fundamental sense of breathing is so powerful in terms of actually reconnecting us, we're actually creating a conscious shift within the chemicals within our body that allow that sense of relaxation. When we're open, when we're relaxed, when we're expansive, that's when we become present. And it's interesting because there is a tightrope between the fight and flight response and being able to stay present. And one is conscious and one is unconscious. And it's being able to actually ground yourself and accurately assess it, because what we have to understand is that we are being bombarded by so much information. So all these senses, as you expand your senses, you become aware of more information, exactly how you said, and they're connecting, you're seeing different things. You're getting all this extra information. When you put yourself into hyper-focused state, you're able to actually process this information far quicker on an unconscious level than you are consciously. So when you're tuned in and you're present, you're able to be alert for any potential danger. When you realize that there is no danger, you're able to bring yourself back into that state of relaxation. And it's so powerful, because for me, that the more that I play with the 54 senses, the more I reactivate, the more the I balance, the more I teach them. It's like these are fundamental gateways into our human technology of really allowing us to expand, to become multi-sensory beings. And it is a way of bringing everything together in us and allowing us to experience life more fully, because when you're noticing more sensory stimulation, you're more engaged, because it's like, oh my God, I didn't know I could do that before. And as you're saying, you then learn to when you can switch them on, turn them off, and play with them. So it's, for me, it's the most interesting game that you could actually ever do.
Is there a possibility that there might be more than 54 senses?
Probably, yes. I mean, the way that my mentor worked them together, I mean, he connected some of the senses together. So, for example, he has a sense of procreation, which includes your sense of courting, sense of mating, sense of sex, sense of love. All of that could be teased out. And I know that when he was looking at them, he found, I think there was about 81 different senses mentioned, and this was put into a collective way to make it easier. Yeah. How many senses do we have? Well, nobody really knows, because when we're looking at it, I mean, this is not a common mainstream way of looking at things. In research, I mean, the research into planet intelligence is only identifying that plants have 50 more senses than the human 5 that we are traditionally associated to have. Richard Louv, who wrote The Nature Principle, identifies 30. So we have no clear consensus. So yeah, there's probably more, because we have forgotten all of these senses. So the more that we expand on the ones that we're already aware of, the deeper we're able to go and to discover something new that will allow us to really step into our full potential as human beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to bring up also the chemical sense, because I think there is a chemical sense that's been opened up in me as well. Because I saw this diagram the other day on influencing your emotions by visualizing a knob that goes up and down, and one of the visualizations involved actually labeling one of the knobs in terms of the chemicals in the brain, such as dopamine and serotonin. And instead of a knob, I visualize it more like a dimmer going up and down. I visualize dopamine going up and down, and I visualize like serotonin going up and down. And I've been playing with that, and I've been noticing that when I visualize my dopamine going up, like turning the knob up, I actually become more happy. So it's like I'm actually sensing literally the chemicals in my brain and influencing them.
Yeah, and this is the things that happen when you're actually playing with senses and using the understanding. I mean, technology is a wonderful tool, because it's really helped us gain clarity on this. And as we're coming more and more into our thoughts control our reality, our thoughts can actually impact the body. Well, yeah, if you're able to actually know what it feels like to have serotonin, and we all know what it feels like to be happy, boom, we can switch it on. And then we can switch it off. And the more that we play with experiencing this, whether or not you do it through a visual way like you do within the mind, I'm more of a feeling person. So I go more for the, ooh, I'm feeling happy. Okay, I've triggered it. Coming back down. But it really is a way that we can actually understand. And this is what's so beautiful, is the more that science actually shows us how our body works, then the more we've got an understanding of, oh, wait, right. So even in terms of, we know that we can actually recreate neural pathways within the brain. every time, and science backs this up. So every time you create a new thought pattern, you're creating a new neural pathway. The best way to actually recreate a new neural pathway is to keep on focusing on creating a new one and let the old one dissolve. It's far harder to focus on dissolving the old one without having recreated a new one first. So one of the exercises that I love doing is actually focusing on that connection of, okay, I am literally reprogramming my brain. Science shows that this is what happens. So when I choose to actually engage in this thought, choose to engage in this action, I am reprogramming myself to create different routines, different thought behaviors, different patterns that allow me to consciously choose how I want to show up in the world.
Yeah. Another thing I want to bring up is what I teach my clients and students, and I wrote an article about this, and how that could be connected to awakening the 54 senses. And that's the mind-body connection and our connection to belief and how the belief actually happens. I believe that our bodies are sending us messages all the time, but we keep ignoring it and numbing it. So at first, the message comes in a mild way, like a negative emotion, quote unquote negative, such as sadness or anger, right? And we've been taught that it's wrong to feel these emotions. So we numb it down, suppress it. We numb it with alcohol or smoking or even ice cream, right? And so the message has to get louder, and then it manifests as physical pain in the body, right? And then the message has to get even louder because we ignored even that. This time we drink like Tylenol or aspirin to suppress the symptom without dealing with the root cause. And now the pain has to become even worse and start becoming inflammation, right? Which then attacks bacteria and viruses, which then becomes disease. So I teach a method where I help people deal with it at the level of physical pain or even at the level of negative emotions by asking the pain for the message. And once you have the message, you no longer need the pain.
Yes.
Right? And the message is usually your own limiting beliefs. Your body wants you to be aware of that, right? So I believe expanding your senses would actually prevent even that messaging system from doing its alarm bells because you're constantly connected. So the body no longer needs to make the message keep getting louder.
Yeah, and this is why when I work with clients with the nature process, I tell them not to get caught up in the story, because all that's doing is reinforcing the neural pathways. Focus on the feeling and the sensation within the body. Where is the body holding on to this? Shift that sensation. Then you're actually creating the shift that means that you don't need to go in. And it's exactly as you say. And there was something that came up, which is a really important point to address here when we're actually talking about mind-body. Mind-body spirit is a traditional Christian trinity. So when we're actually stepping beyond that, in the 54 senses, you have a sense of mind. You do not have a mind. So therefore, there's actually an imbalance within the senses, whereas the mind has been taught it is a separate entity, when actually it's one of 54 other senses. And I did an exercise the last time that I ran the Nature Process live program, where I got people to actually imagine the mind in the center of a circle being surrounded by 53 other representations of senses, and allowing this sense of mind to connect to the other senses, to know that it does not have to be alone in its understanding in terms of actually working with the body, but it can actually bring the other senses into balance to support it. And it was really interesting, the feedback from this exercise, because it's exactly what you're saying there. People are like, oh, so good to know that I can recreate that balance. And the more you expand the senses, you don't need to wait until your body is screaming at you saying, you're not listening to me. You can go, oh, wait a minute. There's a tightness in my chest. I don't even know what that is connected to. I don't need to know consciously. I just know that my body is saying I'm out of balance. I go, shift it within nature, bring myself back into balance. And that's easy enough. A lot of the time when it's really deep-rooted limiting beliefs, a lot of the time you have to bring forth the conscious shift and change. So it does depend on the pattern. I just love it watching and witnessing my clients when they do the nature process go, I don't even know what I've let go of, but I just feel different. I feel awesome. And it's like, yes, keep doing this. And they keep on doing it. And as you said, they shift into this new state of being, this new way of engaging within the world. They're so able to know, oh my goodness, I don't feel good. I'm going to take action now to rebalance myself, instead of getting so off track that we have to manifest horrible symptoms to say this is the wake-up call, because I've been there as well. I mean, my health has been a challenge for me for years, going, nope, you're not listening, you're not listening. Okay, yeah, I'm not listening, I get this. And to work with the 54 senses and understand it has really allowed me to bring a new level of balance into my health and my understanding of my body.
That's brilliant. And you bring up a good point regarding the deep-rooted limiting beliefs and programming, and you talk about this in the book as well. And you and I both have the same goal when it comes to our clients. We eventually want them to be able to be self-reliant and independent and be able to do this work themselves and heal themselves on their own, instead of creating, a guru kind of relationship, right? And yet in the beginning, because some of these beliefs are so deep-rooted, and we all have all these blind spots, right, that we can't see but other people can see. So in the beginning, it's good to have a guide take us through the healing process, right? So tell us about that and your role as a healer and a coach in taking people through the process.
It's very interesting because when I use the nature process, because it's part of a bigger model, which is a tree of transformation, which is using living systems to understand how growth and transformation occurs. But when I really focus specifically on the nature process and do it in a one-to-one session, I step into the role of facilitator. And what I'm doing is I am giving voice to nature to help people understand what they're receiving. Because when you're fully connected, it does come through like talking. Yet when you're just kind of working out and playing with this stuff, you don't actually know what the senses and the experience are. So I take my clients through a journey. I mean, each one is different depending on which client I'm working with, and we start, and it's like the first thing that I do is tell me about being present in nature. Where are you? What is the nature? And a lot of the time, most of the time, I do these sessions by phone, and there's something really powerful about phone because I can't see what they can see, so they really have to go into detail, and I'm listening for that sense of relaxation. I'm listening for their mind quieting down, because there's all sorts of subtle cues that we will give off, from how quickly we're speaking to how slow we're speaking. So it really is creating that awareness within each of my clients. Okay, this is what it feels like to actually be in a state of natural presence. Oh, okay. So what are you sensing in your body? And sometimes, I mean, a lot of people are so disconnected from their body, it takes them ages to sense it. So it's that feeling. Even the whole concept of asking permission to engage with nature is kind of quite a curious one as well, because we've not been taught to do that. So literally all I'm doing is teaching them or empowering them to actually do it themselves. I mean, that is my goal, because this happens automatically. When we make it conscious, that's when the magic happens. And to be able to go out and do this every time you step outside your front door, well, this is our birthright. I mean, this is the relationship that we were supposed to have with nature. So it is very much letting the nature guide each and every session, and allowing the client to actually know where to move, where to go within their own session, so that they understand what they're doing in a deeper level that empowers them, as I said, to go and do it themselves. And I'm currently doing it in a group program just now. It's been really interesting because I have the one-to-one level of working with it, but I also have it in a group program. So a lot of the time it's about guided meditations to just really expand people in. I'm really excited. I'm doing a deep dive just now, and I love technology. So I am taking the video camera out into nature and teaching with nature in collaboration to actually bring it forth. And it's been a new way of doing this for me, and it's been really fascinating to get the initial feedback, because they are going, oh, now I get it. There is something really powerful about having a piece of coursework that's being taught outside in nature in the moment that they then take out into nature as well and actually use as a guide and reference to allow them to go deeper as well. So it's wonderful the different ways that you can use technology and allow people to really, really master this for themselves.
Yeah. So you brought up an interesting point there about asking nature for permission, and I believe that's the fourth step, natural communication, right?
Yes.
So tell us more about that. How do you ask for permission? And what are you asking, really?
Yes. And it's a good thing because it depends. In the context of asking permission, what we're really doing is we're using permission as an energetic marker, as a form of respect. You and I would not engage in this conversation without you first asking me, do you want to chat? Yeah, let's arrange a time. It's cool to do it. You wouldn't turn up to somebody's house uninvited, just walk in and sit down and start making yourself at home. So we're really working on the same principles of actually treating nature as an equal and treating all aspects of nature as equals. So in terms of asking for permission, what we're really doing is, in its simplest sense, we're going out, and when we're first using the concept of permission, it's useful to actually ask aloud. Is it okay to connect with you? Do I have permission? However you want to ask. I mean, there's no right or wrong words that you need to use. It's whatever feels appropriate for you. And then you're waiting for 30 seconds up to a minute to get a sense. And the fundamental level is, does the area or the aspect of nature that you're wanting to engage with feel more attractive and you feel like you want to continue, or do you feel uncomfortable and want to back off? So again, it's a felt sensation. It can be as subtle as a warm glow in the stomach. Does it feel good to actually stay here? Yeah. And it just is such a fundamental shift, but it's acknowledging consciousness in all its forms and actually engaging consciously with it, which is really beautiful. And once you actually understand the feeling, because I mean, again, this is non-verbal, so you're using words to make yourself conscious of a non-verbal connection. Once you've practiced it enough, you're able to actually feel the connection as you get there, to know, I'm welcome, I feel awesome in here, or ooh, I feel really uncomfortable, like, ooh, and do I want to climb that tree? Well, there's a lot of bird crap on it. No, it doesn't. I mean, these are all small things that we're not wanting to discount in terms of actually looking for permission, but it is the fundamental level. Ask in the way that feels comfortable. Give yourself the time and space to do so. And do you feel good enough to continue, or do you get a sense that you leave? And that is really as simple as it is.
Yeah. There was a moment when you were talking, I actually felt really moved in my body. And to me, that's my sense of truth. Like when somebody states a powerful truth, I feel moved. Like some people have chills and goosebumps.
Yes.
When some truth is being spoken that powerfully resonates. Another sense too, right?
Yes. Exactly. And sense of intuition. I mean, we keep on going. We've got the sense of intuition. We've got our psychic senses as well. There's so many of them. And it is being able to recognize, as you say, oh, sense of knowing. I just know that that's right. And the more that we develop this wisdom, the more that we're guided. And it's so beautiful, because for me, I never feel alone. I literally feel that I am guided and inspired by nature every single moment. Because if there's ever any doubt, what am I supposed to do? Oh, I get a sense of it through my body. Nature communicates with me. Oh, that's my next step. And it becomes this really joyful co-creation that allows us to serve the earth and serve nature at the same time. So it's a really beautiful, life-affirming way to take action in this evolution of humanity and the planet's journey.
Yeah. And the permission that you're asking is really the permission to connect with the nature, whether it's the tree or the grass or the ocean or whatever causes that natural attraction in the third step. That is what you're actually asking, right?
It's an interesting one, because it depends on your level of how you're perceiving the world. If you're perceiving that a tree is a separate identity, then you're asking the tree in that moment. If you perceive that everything is nature, then you're asking nature. And it's really useful to make this distinction and not get too caught up on it, because we all have different viewpoints and different understanding. If it makes more sense for you to see the tree and only ask to connect to the tree in that moment, connect to the tree. If you see the sky and go, oh, nature, I mean, that's just me because I'm lazy. Let's take away the labels, because in nature there's no labels. So it's easier for me to go, oh, nature, can I connect? Why do I like this aspect of nature? And that's usually the language that I encourage people to use. You're connecting to nature or an aspect of nature. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's interesting you brought that point up, because that's something that happened for me as well, right in the first step when I go into natural presence. The labels just drop, and it's just, I don't see it as sky, fan, ocean. It's just like seeing it for the first time the way a child sees it. It's like, oh, there's just this thing, this one thing.
Yeah.
With all these colors and shapes and textures, but it's all part of one whole thing.
Exactly. And even going into that state, I mean, what I love about it and being fully engaged in natural presence is the recognition that, oh my goodness, this is me that I'm seeing. There's nothing else but me. Everything is me because I am nature. And it just makes it so beautiful to go and look and go, oh my goodness, wow, this is me, but the expansive me, the self, not my human self. And to really bask in that. And it's like you say, it's beyond labels, because it is a sense, it's a feeling. And to step, and it's so useful letting go of the labels, like you say, to just experience it and go, oh my goodness, wow. Which is why a lot of the time I just use the word nature, because nature is, for me, the definition of nature is everything and nothing that exists within the universe. So it's the physical manifestation of the non-physical that exists. So that's all that there is. So it makes it really simple for me to actually narrow it down and go, oh, all that there is nature. Like, even your nature, I'm nature, so we're actually the same thing.
Yeah.
Just
And
different aspects.
And the beautiful thing, the beautiful paradox that I've been experiencing is I feel more connected with people when I'm going through the nature process. And at the same time, I do have a deep respect for a person's individuality at the same time. It happens at the same time. And that's the beautiful, amazing thing that I want to bring up, because sometimes in spirituality, there is way too much emphasis on the one man connection, and then we forget each person's individuality. But with the nature process, there's an integration that happens.
Yeah. And it's the ultimate paradox, isn't it? Because we're all one, yet there's this illusion of separation that actually keeps us and allows unique aspects of nature to express itself. And for me, I am in total awe. I mean, I literally spend a lot of time going, oh my goodness, this is so awesome to sit and think that this would exist. Like, even it's so awesome that you exist and we're having this conversation, because how could I experience even the nature process if I didn't have you to talk about it with? And how could other people experience it if there weren't trees and plants? So it is a beautiful way. I mean, we're talking about the universe becoming conscious of itself. This is exactly what it is. But pure awareness is not conscious of itself. It's the interplay of consciousness between the nothing and the everything that actually, that's where the magic happens. So to be able to engage in that place and realize, wow, this is everything, but it's also this separate dance so that we can truly experience it. I mean, my mind, if I had a mind, I have a sense of mind, but my understanding is blown every single time I look at the intelligence in nature, because it is beyond my human understanding. And I am literally in a state of awe going, I cannot believe the intelligence and the complexity that exists in nature to create the world the way that it's been created. I mean, it's beyond words. It's just incredible. And like you say, to be able to dance in that paradox of knowing that there's oneness, but also engaging in the manifestation of it. I mean, that is nature experiencing itself.
Yeah. It's even in this conversation, we're both going through the nature process because usually I would send people a list of questions, but I didn't even do it this time. Everything today happened spontaneously in the moment. You know, just going through the flow of the conversation. It's
Yes.
amazing. And just thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. I mean, I adore talking about nature, not just the natural world, but the bigger nature, which is this expression of everything and nothing. I mean, yeah, I'm so grateful that you were here to have this conversation with me, and that we can actually inspire other people through our conversation to get out there and explore this as well.
Yeah. So how can people get more from you if they want to receive deeper guidance, if it's coaching, or if they want to buy the book? Like, what's the website link for that?
If they want to go direct and buy the book, you can go to www.thenatureprocessbook.com. If you want to connect with me, you can do so at www.tabithajane.com, and it's TABITHAJAYNE. And if you want to reach out, you'll find a contact form there that you can get in touch with me. And I would love to hear from people. I mean, I so enjoy getting emails or reading, like I read about you on Facebook, but then I wake up and I get emails from people going, oh, this was incredible. I've had this experience. And like, it makes my day. So please get in touch to tell me your insights, your takeaways. I just enjoy talking about nature with everyone.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you so much for listening and watching this. This has been an episode of Breakthrough Awakening Mind Blowing Monday. Have a wonderful day.